Hello, hello. Let's see here. Let me go to my page. I want to see if I can view it on my computer. See here. Let me go to my page. I want to see if I can view it on my computer. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, apparently I can. And I am not going to play it on my computer. I just want to be able to see the chat. The uh, the actual live video officially begins in 2 minutes. I started it just a little early, but here we are. If anybody is there, I believe I can chat. I'm going to type in hello. Feel free. Yeah, it's coming up. Great. Feel free to let me know if you have any connection issues. I want to, yeah, konbanwa. Hello. Everything is NAND. Hello. Hey, konbanwa. It's good to see you. I want to apologize in advance if for some reason there is a connection problem or some type of issue with the recording, then I'm sorry. Go inside. Because my connection is here. Oh, Evelyn, hey, good to see you. Yeah, actually, Evelyn is my subscriber who just came out recently. If you saw my two recent videos where she came over and helped me do some cleaning, we tossed out a bunch of crap and burned a lot of crap, then you would know that that's her. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I've got these lights on. Actually, I've got another light here. Maybe that can maybe help you see my face. I really don't like to wear my glasses because they don't really suit me for my appearance. But looking up close, I need them for reading. So if I want to read what you guys say, I'll have to put it on there. But anyway, if everything goes smooth and the connection is fine, then yeah, congratulations. You'll be some of the first people to actually see a decent live stream from my Komika, right here from English Vera. And if you haven't already, remember to like the video, give it a thumbs up. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. Now, hey Don, nice to see you. Okay, for those of you who have seen the part 1 and part 2 video of how to find an Akiya, how to buy an Akiya, this part 3, I actually studied this and researched it several months ago, and I meant to upload that and put it online. And actually, my sensei, Soori sensei, she was going to record it for me, just do the audio. She doesn't want to appear on camera because she's a little shy, but she was going to record the audio for it, and I was going to edit it together and make it really kind of cool and that sort of thing. But between then and now, a lot of things have happened. I had to leave work, go on medical leave, move from my apartment, and I've just been so busy. But I realized after talking with Evelyn, hey, wait a second, I still have my part 3 script, which I spent a lot of time researching, and I had my sensei double check it, and I even went online and did some more research. And as a final research earlier today, I spent about 1 hour, taking the information that I had and putting it through the AI because I think it's been cool. Oh, hey, hello, quietly wandering. Good evening. Nice to see you. So basically, the information I'm going to present to you, I've taken every possible precaution that I possibly can in order to give you the most comprehensive, correct information. So today's part 3 is just about the costs that you are going to incur if you want to buy a house in Japan. Some of these apply to any house in Japan, and some of them apply to specifically Akiya. Some of them might apply to just houses that were on the Akiya bank. There is a difference. So I made another video earlier today, and I'll upload it. I think I'll try to upload it tomorrow morning. For me, tomorrow morning. Right now, it's evening. It's a little after 10 o'clock in the evening. But basically, it's a video about what is an Akiya, and it's very simple. But I just it's been kind of a pet peeve of mine recently, and another YouTuber. We've been discussing back and forth, a few different people who are using keywords in their titles and stuff in order to get more views and more subscribers, but they're misrepresenting what these terms are. And so I decided to start looking at these terms individually and show you what they actually mean. But if you buy a house in Japan, some of these things will apply to you and some of them won't. It depends on where you buy and what you buy, and if it's an Akiya or if it's an Akiya on the Akiya Bank, or whatever. There are different things, so I try to cover all that as best I can. And now, if for some reason you see something that you think is incorrect, please ask me about it. Please point it out. I feel pretty confident that the information I have here is all right, is all correct. But nobody's perfect, and of course, I am no exception to that rule. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. And by the way, if you have any questions in the chat while we're going along, you can ask. Um, you can ask now or ask later. I'm not in a hurry, so I'm happy to answer whatever if I can. Okay, if I don't know, then I mean I could speculate, but I'd rather not give you a speculative answer. I'd rather just give you an accurate answer, right? Okay. Costs of an Akiya before you buy, during the buy, and after the purchase. Okay. First, we're going to cover the three main sections. Like I just mentioned, number one is the pre-purchase costs, which includes possible expenses that you might have before closing. And let's go ahead and jump into that. Okay. Essentially, before you ever get your foot into the Genkan of an Akiya, if it has a Genkan, a Genkan, of course, is like the entryway. Some costs may actually be involved before you ever get to that point where you have the keys, okay? So if you require assistance to actually locate and acquire your new old home, then it's not likely to be free. Let's jump to the second thing here. If your Japanese language level isn't decent, then obviously, oh, cool. Yeah, that's very cool, Don. Yeah, Toyosaka. You said move Toyosaka from to Toyosaka? To Toyosaka? That's pretty cool. Okay. If your Japanese language agent who can speak English and help you support, because most of the agents and Akiya Bank people don't speak English. Now, the Akiya Bank that I actually contacted in Higashi Hiroshima, there's a young man there who speaks decent English, actually, but he's not I guess you could say, the common reality. The typical reality is that English level is not so good with the agents and the Akiya banks. So if you don't speak it well and you need some help, you're probably going to have to pay. And at this point, I can actually plug my sensei if you're interested in getting help. She seems to be more busy or busier recently doing some kind of work. I'm not sure exactly what, but if she's not busy, then she can offer some assistance, but that's paid assistance. Anyway, agent consultation, Akiya location assistance, and the assistance with the paperwork, these things cost money. These are, of course, pre-costs before you ever even find your Akiya, or once you find an Akiya and you need paperwork, you're going to have to pay for that. You can't just get that for free. Some services, based on my experience, can be as much as $200 per hour. And there is one guy in Tokyo who is an agent, and he can locate an Akiya for you, but he charges $200 an hour just to look for them. And he will compile a list in a particular area that you select. But that's $200 an hour just to find them, and then you might not like any of them, but you still have to pay. So keep that in mind. Inspections are another item that you may need to consider or you may want to consider. Depending on your abilities to recognize things, you might be the kind of person that goes in and you're really well versed and skilled at knowing certain things, like finding termite damage and whether or not you want to address that and deal with it or not, or foundation issues, or the surrounding environment, the danger zones, the hazardous zones like earthquake areas, landslide areas, and stuff like that. You might be able to recognize all that stuff yourself, but chances are you need a little professional help, and you have to pay for that. So if you look at 4 or 5 different houses and you want to have them inspected, that costs money. So keep that in mind. If you aren't familiar with those, then yeah, definitely hire somebody. Depending on where you're located, you might accrue more expenses in the way of travel. Just or you come over and you stay in a place like Tokyo. Tokyo is cool, and there are places you can rent and stay in Tokyo. But if you're very interested in getting an Akiya somewhere in Kansai, well, Tokyo's not in Kansai, so you're going to have to travel to that area whenever you find some houses that you want to look at and spend some time going around there. Um, the travel time, the travel distance, the method of travel, and the amount of time that you're going to spend, these things cost money. So think about that. I would plan a little more ahead of time if you're going to look in one particular area. Don't go stay in Tokyo if you're not interested in getting an Akiya in Tokyo. Now I'm going to pause right here just for a moment to take a look at your comments and see if we've got anything that needs to be answered right quick. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Quietly Wandering says, I've heard from multiple sources that roof inspections are separate from house inspections and are more expensive than house inspections. Um, well, when you say house inspections, there are different types. Just for example, luckily there is one subsidy that I qualify for. Well, not me, but my house. My Kominka is very, very old, at least 150 years old. It was built in the Edo period. And because of its age, and it wasn't an Akiya Bank house. In other words, it was not actually registered on the Akiya Bank website. I didn't buy it through there. I found it there, but it wasn't registered there. But because of the age of my property, it qualifies for a particular type of house inspection. But that is a very specific house inspection. It is an earthquake resistance focus inspection. And that costs generally a few $1,000s. If you want like a really high level company to do it, it can cost even more than that. I can't imagine anyone doing it for cheaper than a couple $1,000s, maybe $3,000. But because I get the subsidy from the city, I only pay about $80. So that is a tremendous bargain for me. However, sadly, it's the only subsidy that I'm aware of that I can get for my house right now. But as far as like a basic house inspection, like an overall, like maybe termite inspection and general structural inspection and all of that, I'm not quite sure what the difference is between the roof inspection and the house inspection. Honestly, I've never heard of a separate inspection just for the roof. So I can't speculate on that. It is something to think about. I'll check it out later. If I find something on that, then I'll post it in the comments. Okay. Check out Japan Real Estate channel. Great folks, transparent, knowledgeable, and good prices. Japan Real Estate. I think I've looked at their stuff before. I think so, but by all means, check it out. and do your own due diligence and make your own decisions. I can't recommend it or not because I'm not sure, but by all means, check it out. Yeah, yeah, and Evelyn, you're right. Hotels can be pricey, especially if you're last minute. Definitely. If you plan ahead, not only do you have better selection, but you can often get better deals. When you wait to the last minute, you can just pay through the nose. So, yes, your transportation and your stay can be very expensive. If you're a solo traveler like me, then you can much more easily find good deals and places to stay, and it's cheaper to travel and all of that. I can stay in the capsule hotels, right? It's no problem for me. It's very comfortable. Okay, Akiya consultation service. Okay, I got you. Yeah, and so basically, what they would do is that that kind of company would kind of fall under what I was talking about earlier, which is a company that looks for Akiya for you and helps you with various stages and steps from looking for through buying and even probably after you buy the Akiya and helping you with some different things. Okay, all right. Yeah, I even mentioned one more thing. We already mentioned transportation and lodging, like hotels and stuff like that, while you're in Japan looking for an Akiya. Of course, there's also eating. You know, if you were in Japan staying at a hotel and just traveling around looking at Akiya, chances are you're not going to be cooking at your hotel. If you're lucky, you've got a hotel that provides some meals at no charge. If you come to Saijo, which is the main city here in Higashi Hiroshima, it's like the capital city of Higashi Hiroshima. There are some hotels there that I really like. I told Evelyn about one that I really like. Not only do they have hot baths and free laundry where you can wash and dry your clothes for free, but they also have free ramen after 5 o'clock, also free coffee, free tea, and free water upstairs. So after 5 o'clock, you can go get ramen made for you and relax in the lounge. If you can read Japanese, you can read manga for free, and you can relax in their hot bath. It's really cool. But still, that's like you know $80, 70, $80 a night. So it's not cheap. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think you can live on ramen all the time, every night. Okay, quick question. Yeah, buyer's agent. Yeah, there are many agents, but like I said, if you're going to go to an agent, there's not a huge selection of agents who offer English service. The best thing to do is brush up on your Japanese. If you can speak at least, moderate conversational Japanese, then that can go a long ways because like even with my agent, he could only speak just the tiniest bit of English and I speak just a little bit of Japanese. So between the two of us, we're able to communicate. And with my sensei, Saori sensei, she has been just amazing for me in many ways. So I was lucky. Still had to pay a little bit of money, but it was perfect. But yes, that's right. Don is right. There are no onsen in Toyosaka. So maybe here at the Villa, I will have an onsen in the future. I have to go all the way to Saijo to go to a hot bath. So unfortunately, if there were a hot spring or a hot bath here in Toyosaka, I probably would never fix my bathroom. Okay. All right. Now, pre-cost, another pre-cost. Maybe having the land surveyed. This is something that I did not have to do, thankfully, because the land itself, the different properties were already marked off specifically, and each one has a number. If you look at the address of my property, it's like 333, but there's like 3331, 3332, 3333, 3334, blah, 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 and on and on. And several of these pieces of property, I think it's four pieces of property right together, one, two, three, and four, they all belong to me. So when I bought the property, I didn't buy one piece of land, I bought like four together. And basically, if there's any doubt as to where the border is for your property and the next property, or if it's unclear, like if you want to buy this piece of land but nobody really knows exactly who owns what and where, then you have to pay a a surveyor to actually come out and do that. That's an extra expense and it's not very cheap. I can't tell you exactly how much it costs, but other YouTubers that have bought properties, you can see some of their videos, they talk about that. They had to pay because it wasn't clear. I didn't have to pay for that. So I was lucky. Lucky. Um, and by the way, if you're wondering why do they have to properly mark the property lines, well, besides making it very clear what you own and don't own, these are details that the scrivener needs. And the scrivener, of course, is another fee that you're going to have to incur at the time of signing. So whenever you go to get everything together, you're going to have to pay the scrivener fees, and it's a judicial scrivener. They are basically writing the legal documents for your purchase that transfer ownership to you. You're going to have to pay for that, and it's generally around 100,000 yen, which is essentially about 800 to $850, generally at the most. If they want a lot more than that, then you're probably there's a red flag there, because across Japan it's pretty much 100,000 yen, just so you know. But if the scrivener doesn't have those details of your property lines, then they cannot make the documents. So if they if they already have it, then great. Like in my case, they already had the information, and they didn't have to tell me to pay for a, a survey guy to go out and make the lines. But he has to have them to make the papers for you. So it could be another expense. Keep that in mind. And now, here's the thing: if you want to just search for an Akiya through the Akiya Bank websites, that's free. Registration is free. Okay, and the process is not difficult, but you have to register. You have to register with the Akiya Bank in that particular city before you can actually look at the details of the property. So there is no such thing as, oh, go to the Akiya Bank website. Yeah, 75, 700, I'm sorry, 75. I was about to say 75,000 yen, but yes, 75, $750 up to about $1,000. But I think at today's exchange rate, it should be no more than $800. It should be. If it's a lot more or significantly more than $800, then they're pushing the envelope up too much. That's current prices, okay? At the exchange rate of today, which is February 18th, 2023, should be no more than about $800, maybe $75. I'm sorry. No more than $800 or $750, somewhere there. But anyway, registration with the Akiya banks is free, but keep in mind that there is no one central Akiya bank, and every Akiya bank that exists, they operate independently. They're created independently. They function independently and differently. Some of them are really nice and they're streamlined and they have lots of information and they answer you quickly and they're very helpful, and they've got a lot of stuff flowing through. But if you go to another Akiya bank, it could be that they don't have much on there, or they've got old stuff listed. They're not updating it as quick. They're not very responsive. It's a pretty crappy website. There is no. So if someone says, "Oh, Akiya banks suck," well, they don't know what they're talking about, because some Akiya banks are really great. If they say, "Oh, Akiya banks are wonderful," well, that's not true either. I mean, think about this. Have you ever heard anybody say car dealerships are great? Well, that depends. It depends on the car dealership and the reputation they have, how they run things, the people that work there, the prices they have, the inventory they have, how quickly they respond and help you, and how friendly they are. It's a combination of things. So you can't just say all dealerships are good or all dealerships are bad. There are both, and there's everything in between. Akiya banks are the same, so keep that in mind. However, it is free to register, but you have to register if you want to get information specifically about the location and if you want to move to the step of looking at the house or scheduling uh, a visit to the house. There's no way they're going to give you the information if you're not registered on that specific Akiya bank. So if you register on the Akiya bank in Tokyo or somewhere in Tokyo, they're not going to give you access to Osaka Akiya. You have to register there also, and it can take a few days or a week or 10 days depending on how fast they are. Um, okay, so yeah, hoping to find non-registered well, yeah. Here's the thing. Okay, yeah, we're gonna pause here just for a second so I can take a look at these because these are good points and kind of like questions. When you say non-registered, like not registered on an Akiya bank, there are benefits and drawbacks to both. And in my case, I purchased mine privately, directly from the owner, and because of that, I don't have any any of those restrictions where I have to get things repaired be within a certain time, or I have to get inspections done before I move in, or I don't have to get any to repair it before I move in. I don't have to make it safe in all these different ways. I'm under no restrictions on how I do things here. So that's good. If I were in the city, even though it's a private sale, that probably wouldn't be the case. Things are a little different when you've got several. Downside, the downside, unfortunately, for me, is that I'm missing out on thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of subsidies, of free money that I can get returned to me for cleaning costs and repair costs and other things. Okay, so I mentioned the inspection subsidy that I get, right? So I get the inspection for just about $80. But that's all I get. If I pay a crew of people to come out here, like Evelyn and I were doing, literally just taking stuff out and throwing it away. Of course, we were burning the burnable stuff, and that's legal. My house registered on the Akiya bank, then they pay a large portion of that back to me. But I don't get that because my house is not registered with the Akiya bank. So it's a double-edged sword, like you said, on those things before you ever buy, because there are some restrictions and some qualifications and requirements when you buy an Akiya bank house, but there are also some benefits and pluses for that. Um, okay, let's go back here. Yeah, you're right. There are renovation time limits, etc. requirements, just like I said. You're right. You just need to check that when you look, okay? Because it might be for one person getting the house from a particular Akiya bank is a great deal because of all the pluses. They outweigh the negatives. And for somebody else, it could be that getting the private sale is much better than getting the Akiya bank house because the negatives outweigh the positives. So it goes both ways. Anyway, let's see here. Don says people in the countryside are often reluctant to sell their homes because they often have ancestral graves. Yeah, and there are a variety of reasons. That's one reason, but and you're right, that's one reason. But there are a variety of reasons why people are reluctant to sell their homes. I mean, sometimes they just can't let it go. Now there are other times where many different people in the family have some kind of claim on the property, or there are several buildings on the property and they have different claims to different buildings. And if you guys want to hear a story, I highly recommend you go to Danny's channel, DIY Japan. Get him to tell more, or you can go check out the interview that I did with him. I did an interview with him and he talked a little bit about how he got his house and how there were multiple people basically who owned it and how it took a long time to work all that out. So I highly recommend you check out that video. It's two parts, really long, good interview with Danny. I like Danny a lot. He's a really cool guy. But if you want to hear more about that topic, besides the interview that I did with him, you can go to his channel and say, hey, Brandon over at English Vera, he said to ask you to tell your story about how you got your Akiya and how it was connected to many different family members. You never know what you're going to run into when you're trying to get a house here. It's pretty interesting. Okay. Yes, Quietly Wondering says the quality of information provided on Akiya Bank websites can vary greatly. Yes, that's basically what I said. It's not the same across the board. So if somebody says Akiya banks suck, and those people suck and they don't know what they're talking about, it's that person that doesn't know what they're talking about, because you can't lay a blanket statement out there like that. Let's see here. But good for listings. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Z. What's up, Z? What's up, man? It's so good to see you. And good morning to you. Aloha. Okay, let's see here. Grants would be nice. Yes. I might be Nokia for $4,000, but there's probably a lot of expenses on top of that. Blocks Ray. Yes. My Akiya sell price, it started at I say $11,000. It was 110,000 yen. So maybe around $9,000. Okay. That was the original sell price, but it was empty, abandoned for about 27 years. And so that was the price they had a long time ago. But they came down a lot after the eight. I fell through the floor. That's another story I could tell. If you haven't seen it in my earlier video, I'll just briefly mention it. But the first day I came here to look at it, I went into the guest house, Kura, and I fell through the floor. And I was, like I told Evelyn, I was on my back like a turtle. I couldn't get out of the hole in the floor. The agent had to pull me up. Later on, he told the family, your house is in terrible condition, but this guy's interested in it. This amount of money, this $9,000 is too much. So they basically marked it down to like $3,000. But then later on, they were worried that maybe I would be concerned about some hazardous area nearby, not on my land, but nearby. There's like a cautionary zone for flooding or something. And they were worried when I saw that on the hazard map that I wouldn't buy the property. So they marked it down again to $2,000. So you can get a really cheap house in Japan. So $4,000 is definitely doable. It's probably gonna take a lot to fix it in time and money. Blocks Ray, just like you said, I agree. Mine is gonna take a lot of love. I believe that it can make it. I know it can, but it's going to take a lot of time and money. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at? Maybe I'll marry a woman in Tokyo and we can get a few million yen. Best of luck. Ganbatte. Private seller versus broker. Are there any benefits of one over the other? Man, Blocks Trade, that's a big question, because there are benefits and drawbacks to both. And but typically you're not going to deal directly with the owner. And I would say, just from my experience and the people around me, buying directly from the seller without an agent or middleman in between is rare. So just for example, let's say you're here working in Japan and you meet somebody who says, oh, I have a house that I'm selling if you're interested, and then you buy it directly from him. That's super rare. You'll probably find it listed somewhere by an agent on behalf of the seller. So you'll deal with the agent and they'll negotiate for you. And that's how it will run. But if you're talking about like maybe the agent in the family selling versus like a consultancy or agency like was mentioned earlier, there are some differences there, because a lot of agents, most agents actually, will not deal in Akiya because there's not a lot of money for them in it. But if you find an Akiya service, then I think two things come to mind. One is it's going to cost a lot more, okay? Because you're not just going to pay the fee when you buy. You're going to pay fees for them to do other things to find it. and to prepare all sorts of things for you and do a lot of legwork that you would otherwise have to do. So you're going to pay a lot more money. But if paying the extra money is something you can do, then it probably would come out much better and easier, assuming that the company or the consultancy is trustworthy and reputable and recommended. Okay. I hope that answers your question. But remember that agents in general are just like the person who negotiates the sale, and a consultancy is more like a one-stop shop, where they search for it and do all these other things. It's not often that a regular agent will look for Akiya. They want to look for newer homes. They want to sell newer homes. Now, if you're talking about an empty house that was made like that was built like 5 years ago, that's a very new empty house. So definitely agents will be trying to sell that. But if you're looking for a house that was built, maybe 70 years ago, 100 years ago, or maybe like mine, 150 or more years ago, then most agents don't really want to deal with it. My agent tried many times to talk me out of buying this house. He wasn't trying to sell it. He was trying to keep me from buying it. He just wanted me to know that it was too far gone. But that's Japanese idea. Many Japanese just think, new house, new house. But anyway, trying to catch up on the comments here. Let's see. Fell through the floor on the tour. That's right. Best way to get a discount. Yeah, that's right. I thought it was hilarious that he told him that. I didn't tell him to do any negotiation. He just told me the price is too high. I'll talk to the owners. I was like, okay. So I sat there and I drank coffee. He gave me coffee and I sat there and drank it while he called them, and they got off the phone and I had a huge discount. It was hilarious. 3:30 a.m. Yeah, man, you probably watch this and go back to sleep, I guess. Oh, you said Danny, which channel? That's DIY Japan. DIY Japan. And okay, let's see here. And Evelyn said, good to note that the same house cannot be bought through different options. If it's a private buy, you're not going to be able to buy it through an Akiya bank. Yeah, the reason for that is because, well, here's the thing. If a house is registered on the Akiya bank, then you have to buy it through the Akiya bank. You can't buy it outside. It's already registered through the Akiya bank. If your house is not on the Akiya bank, if it's not registered on the Akiya bank, then you can't buy it there, obviously, because it's not registered on the Akiya bank. Okay, so you can. That's why I mentioned the car lot, the car dealership earlier, because it's, to me, in some ways similar. If you go down to the car lot, let's say that you want to buy uh, a new Lamborghini, all right, a new Lamborghini. You're not going to be able to buy a new Lamborghini anywhere except for the Lamborghini store. A brand new Lamborghini is only from Lamborghini. You can't buy it at the Ford dealership. So it's the same thing with an Akiya Bank house. If it's registered with the Akiya Bank, you can only buy it there. If it's a private house that's not registered on the Akiya Bank, then you can buy it independently through an agent, like I bought this one. But for those of you who don't understand or don't know, I'll mention it again. My house actually was listed under the property section, land for sale section of the Akiya Bank website. But I found out later it was not listed on the Akiya Bank, or rather, it was not registered on the actual Akiya Bank in Higashi Hiroshima. To this day, nobody knows why I found it on their website. The Akiya Bank office, my agent, even my sensei, and we have no idea why it was listed on the website. So, do with that what you will. Purple Haze. I'm curious what happened to that awesome sword you found, and what is it worth? Will you make a video about it someday? Oh, Purple Haze, the katana. Well, I did make an update video that concluded what happened with the katana, and I had to take it for inspection, and I waited several months for that, and when it came up, I went to have it inspected, and they determined that in some of the processing of making the sword, it there were machines used, and even though it's really an antique, it was made around 1940, 1942, somewhere in there. So it was not a family blade that was made a couple hundred years ago or anything like that. It was just a war blade. It was a blade made for the military, and it's called a gunto, I believe, a military katana. So this gunto cannot be registered, and if you have a blade longer than a certain length that is sharp in Japan, then it has to be registered. However, it can't be registered if it wasn't made in the traditional Japanese method of metal folding. Process involving machines, I wasn't legally able to keep the blade. So the long version condensed down to the short version is that I had to turn the blade into the police station, but I did keep the handle, the tsuba, which is the cross guard, and the sheath. And those I still have. And I plan on having a dummy blade, a replica blade made, so that I can put it together and put it on display here in the house. So I was able to keep what I believe is the true spirit of the blade because it has the tassel, the officer's tassel. And I still haven't taken down the officer's picture. It's still above my butsudan. I just haven't had a desire to take that picture down. So it's still there. Anyway, it was kind of sad, but I also feel that it's like laying it to rest, you know? And it was wrapped in a newspaper in a dresser, like it was forgotten. And that wasn't right, in my opinion. Okay. 3 months at a time at first. Okay. What? I'm not sure what that's for. Anyway, quietly wondering says private seller. You do all the organizing, what is needed to get over the line. Buyer agent does all the work. Money involved in a buyer's agent. Um, yeah, there is some stuff. That's the thing. There are various things that you might have to do. There's some things that you definitely have to do, no matter what kind of house you buy. But there might be some extra things that you have to do. Like for example, Danny had to do a lot of legwork running around, and I guess if he had an agent helping him out, I think it was also there was like an agent helping him out, trying to connect with all of the family members to get them to agree on some way to sell the property and even negotiate on cleaning the items out of the house and stuff like that. That takes time. And I think if I remember correctly, all of that took like a year before he could ever buy the house. So uh, mine didn't take that long. I thought mine took a while, but from the time I decided that I wanted it and to the time I was actually able to close on it was roughly half a year. And that was mainly waiting on the paperwork of the property getting legally changed into the lady's name, the lady of the old lady of the house, not old lady, but the old owner of the house. When her husband passed, it legally went to her, but it was never actually switched in the paperwork. So I had to wait for all of that to be taken care of. And so the family had to take care of that. But I also had to turn in some paperwork and stuff like that. And then the agent put it all together. And once it was ready, we had to do the meeting, and I had to pay the scrivener, the agent, and the family all on the same day. So I brought a lot of cash to pay everybody, and I brought some gifts for them, and they were surprised because they brought me gifts too. It was really cool. I don't think I've talked about that much before, but it was really cool because even the family. I almost said her name. I don't want to say the family's name, but she brought me um, a gift bag of treats and stuff from Higashi Hiroshima. It was so cool, so nice and sweet. But they were surprised because I brought them some gifts too. And they said, "You're not supposed to bring gifts. You're the buyer." But they marked it down so much, and I just felt like I should give something. So everybody was surprised. I even gave a gift to the scrivener and a gift to the agent. And I still want to go back and give a really nice gift to the agent because he didn't make much. He only made like $100 on this whole deal and all this work. So he deserves more than that. Okay. Yeah, Purple Haze. Yeah, Z says check the channel videos for the sword reveals. Yeah, you can look on there because I'm pretty sure that I posted the update because I recorded the updates about the sword, and I'm pretty sure that I made that video. I don't have the link on me right now, but if I remember, I'll post it. But definitely Purple Haze, you can look that up. And Evelyn said those who deal with Akiya usually have a fixed sum. That's my case. Yeah, that's right. The good thing is that you can ask in advance, and that way you can have a clear idea of what price you're looking at. That's one thing in Japan that I think is pretty fair. A lot of stuff you can ask in advance. If I do this, what's it going to cost? And they'll give you an exact price, and typically that's what it costs. Sometimes you hear about getting quoted this, and then it wound up being more than that. That's not really common in Japan, from what I've seen. And let's see here. Um, wow, so many comments, guys. I had more information. I have a lot more information on the next steps and costs, but there's so many questions. Let's see here. Let me go back up. Wow, I get kind of lost. There's so many comments. Wow, you guys are great. 11 people in the chat. Holy cow! I'm like lost in a sea of people. Awesome. That's great. I didn't expect so many. I thought I was going to get on here and read to just a few people, answer a few questions, and be gone. But you guys are a baller. Awesome. Let's see here. Okay. Um, yeah, and thank you. Some of you guys are answering the questions in the chat. That's very helpful for me because I see that it's accurate, so I don't have to answer it. That's great. Yeah, Block Trace said neither the seller nor the agents have information on the year of the house, nor if it has asbestos. The foundation is really bad. Yeah, my house in particular, I don't have to worry about asbestos because it's an Edo period kominka. You can't see it when you look at the house from the outside because of the metal roof, but underneath it has the thatched roof, the thatched grass roof, and the walls are, well, besides the glass that's all the way around, making the house like freezing cold. Luckily today or tonight, it's not that cold, so it's okay. It's nice and warm in here, but the walls that I actually do have are made of dirt and bamboo frame. So, and there's some shikui. Some of these plasters are made from lime. There's nothing harmful in the way of health concerns in a traditional, very old kominka. So I don't have to worry about asbestos or anything like that. But if you're going to buy like an Akiya that was maybe built in the 1970s or something like that, maybe you have to worry about those sorts of things. Helen says, based on your hey, based on your experience, which places or districts do you think they're the best that someone should look for an Akiya purchase based on prices, risk of earthquakes, radioactivity, etc.? Okay, that's a big question, and it depends. If you watched my first video in my three-part series, which this is part 3, even though we've got so many questions, this is going to be like a part 3 special. I didn't realize it was going to be such a big thing, but I can't recommend a particular place or district to you. I can't do that because I don't know you as far as what you're looking for. Okay. I don't know which area you like. You know, do you want to be close to Tokyo? Do you want to be close to Osaka? Do you want to be closer to where I'm at? You want to go around Hiroshima? What kind of climate do you want? Do you want to be within driving distance of certain places? Do you want to be close to a train line? I know that you mentioned the earthquake risk and radioactivity and things like that, but prices are pretty easy to figure out because if you're going to buy an old property, you can assume that the value of the house is basically zero. It's not about the house typically. When it comes to the older houses, it's about the location of the land. So if you're going to get like a Machiya style house in Kyoto, I'm telling you right now, and you can test this by looking it up, but a lot of those houses are going to be really expensive. And the closer you are to central places in Kyoto, the more expensive they're going to be. So if you're like, well, I have $200,000 and I want to get an Akiya in Kyoto, no problem. You can do that. But if you're going to get an Akiya in like Higashi Hiroshima, East Hiroshima, and you have $200,000, you're going to be able to get something really, really nice because you're going to get a huge house with a lot of land, and you'll have money left over to do lots of renovations. So when it comes to price, you just have to think a lot about location, okay, and like close to the city, in the city, and stuff like that. It's different. Also, depending on the value of your land, your yearly resident or yearly property taxes are higher. Where I'm at, they're very low, but a place in Kyoto or Osaka or something like that, they're gonna be higher. Now, as far as earthquakes, natural disasters, not just earthquakes, because Japan has other things. There are typhoons, there are landslides, heavy rains, flooding, um, and of course the radioactivity. If you're worried about that in certain areas, there are hazard maps, and I don't have the link right now, but if you can read Japanese, then it's even better because you can go on the Japan city, or not city, but country or nation websites, and they show you the different areas that are hazardous in Japan. But there are some channels and on YouTube where they talk about these different areas. It just so happens that where I live in this area, it's one of the least earthquake prone areas in all of Japan. And in this particular area, the main thing you have to worry about is rain and the effects of that. So possible flooding and depending on where you are, landslides. So if you're up close to a slope, or if you're in a particular area where the water can pile up very fast, then you have to worry about those things, flooding and landslides. So you have to be particular about that. So, but here's the thing to remember, just because an area might not have a lot of landslides doesn't mean that all of the houses there aren't in landslide danger zones, if that makes sense. For example, maybe this one area has a lot of flat land and so there's no danger of landslides overall, but there could be like one small mountain or very, very large hill that has a house right up next to it at the base. And so that house is in a danger zone, a landslide danger zone. So just because the area overall is relatively safe doesn't mean that that particular house is. So you have to look at it on a case by case basis. I was asked recently by one subscriber. He sent me an email and he asked me to look at one particular property. And one of the things that I don't know about that property is, what does the surrounding area look like? Like are there hills, slopes nearby? Are there rivers nearby? Is there a possible waterway that could flood? I can't see that information, so it's difficult for me to recommend anything about that. But you can definitely look up, Helen. I can't answer this for you, but you can definitely look up. First of all, try to figure out which area of Japan you like. If you don't know that, do like I did. Travel around Japan. Go to a lot of different places. Find some places you really like. Then start looking up some information on those places that you like and to see which ones seem safest. And then from there, you can start looking for places that are within your price range. That's what I would recommend. Sorry for the long answer, but that's the best one I can give you. Yeah, Z, stay up for the live stream, bro. Thanks. Block's phrase, is it possible to receive visa sponsorship without a degree? Kind of unrelated. Sorry. It's okay. I don't mind. Well, the answer is yes, but it's going to be very difficult. Typically, if you want a visa or residency here in Japan, there are different types. Now, you could come as a student. You could come to a language school and study Japanese and get residency. And if you do that, you have to pay for the national health insurance, but it enables you to work up to 25 hours a week. So, Bloxray, if that's of interest to you, that's one way to come to Japan. Come here for a language school, a full-time language school, and then you can work part-time 25 hours a week. You have residency and you can look around and you can be here. You can get your visa. That's one way. You don't have to just you don't have to get a degree first to come here and work. You can just do it another way. If you want to come here and get a job without a degree, that's generally pretty hard because in Japan they view the degree as kind of a minimal entry, like a threshold. You got to have at least that degree typically to get in the door to get a job, no matter what kind of job it is. But that's that's about the best answer I can give you there. But if you have any more specific answers, you can always post them, and I'll answer them as best I can. I was looking at a nice house on the river in Miyazaki, only 800K, but they delisted price after Japan opened. They delisted the price. You mean they raised the price? They raised it, or they delisted it? They didn't list it anymore, or they raised the price. I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, maybe they're trying to capitalize. Evelyn says if you have relevant work experience, that's in demand. Yeah, it depends. I mean, if you're in a field of work that they really need workers in, then it's possible if you can show that you have good experience in that. However, if you don't speak Japanese, or let me rephrase. If you can't pass a certain level of the JLPT, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test, and you don't have a degree, then chances are you are not going to get a job in Japan. Okay, that's just the fact. So keep that in mind. If you don't have a degree, you should be able to pass the JLPT on a high level. Try to get one or both of those. Blockstray, probably a large monetary investment like opening a business. I think an initial investment of 30K plus. Well, yeah. If you got $30,000, now that's the thing. If you want to have your own business, you can sponsor your own visa in Japan, but you have to meet a few key qualifications. And there seems to be a lot of information floating around there. I've had people on Facebook recently post some stuff, their own opinion about what it takes, and some other people. But here's the fact, okay? If you want to sponsor your own visa in Japan with your own business, starting a business or creating a business entity is very cheap and very easy. But in order to sponsor your own visa in Japan and have residency here based on your own business, then you have to show three key things, okay? First, you have to show a total investment in your business of 5 million yen, and it's basically about $42,000. Okay, that means complete investment from the get-go. Second thing is you have to show that you have 2 full-time employees. Okay, at least 2 full-time employees. The third thing is that you have to show that you have some type of office space here in Japan. Now, my house qualifies. All I have to do is take a picture of my desk, which I'm sitting at right now. My desk shows my computer. Maybe I can have a printer here, some paperwork. It's my home office workspace. That's good enough. The only thing I'm missing is the total investment in the 2 workers right now. If you can do those things, then yes, you can sponsor your own entrepreneurial visa in Japan. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, Evelyn is a software engineer and worked for 10 years. That means she can get a visa based off a software engineering job. Yes, that's right. She speaks Japanese, and with software engineering work, which I believe is in demand in Japan, then yes. If she had absolutely zero ability in Japanese, then I doubt that she would be able to get that, though, because businesses are going to need somebody who can speak both languages. Actually, somebody who can speak English and Japanese, preferably. But starting own business for residency, yes, it can be done, but like I said, you have to meet those 3 qualifications. And by the way, just so you know, this isn't my opinion. There's 3 reasons. I was in a meeting in December with the immigration board, and that's what they told me face to face. So it's straight from the horse's mouth. Don says, in order to register with the Akiya Bank, it's necessary to clean the house. So many houses are not registered. Well, if that's true, and I don't know if that's true, or I mean, I'm not doubting you at all. but it makes sense because that it would make sense because a lot of these houses still have stuff. Mine had one, two, three, four, five rooms that were 95% empty. Okay, 95% empty. But one room was completely full of stuff. The kitchen was completely destroyed and full of junk. The doma was full of stuff. The bathroom, which is now the bathroom, but the back room was full of junk, and all of the buildings outside are full of stuff. So there's no way they were going to clean all of that. No way. Yeah, I'm looking forward also, Helen, to Evelyn's new Akiya and seeing her progress with her house. It's going to be cool. Let's see here. Let me jump down. Is this the first ever live stream for English Viewer? Yes, you could say the first ever live stream from English Viewer. Yes, that's right. So I hope it's coming out all right. I hope you guys, it seems like you guys can understand me fine, so I'm happy about that. Evelyn was here the other day whenever Docomo came and tried to improve the connection. I wouldn't say that it's great, but it seems to be okay. All right. And where are we at now? Oh yeah, Good Old Homes Japan YouTube. That's right. I definitely recommend that channel. Definitely. Yeah, and Evelyn, you're right. For $20,000, not in a big city, you can definitely get something for that. There are a lot. You can find them for sale exactly for that price, and they're in pretty good condition. If you're lucky and you get them for less than that, then you can have extra money left over to do repairs. Yes, 200,000 would buy a tremendous amount of Akiya. It would be like Mega Akiya. Silly jokes. Okay, good place here, Toyosaka. Come on, everyone. Yeah, Don, you're right. It's in case you all don't know where Toyosaka is located. It's a little over an hour drive, maybe. It depends on the traffic to Hiroshima City. And Saijo is not far from here. It's like 30, 35 minutes maybe. And then to the airport, 30 minutes, 25 maybe, just to the Hiroshima airport. And then you can get to the Sanyo line from here in about 30 minutes, Sanyo JR line. And if you want to go to Higashi Hiroshima Shinkansen Station, you can also drive down there in about 45 minutes from here. If you go north, you can get to Miyoshi in about 25 minutes. Overall, it's not a bad location. It's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, Z says he's bringing his tools. Yeah, I was thinking earlier today how I would love to tackle the kitchen floor and the walls with Z. I think if we could do that, it would be really awesome. And Helen, yes, you're welcome about the detailed answer. I'm happy to answer your question. We can have a pizza and beer work party month. A month of beer, work, partying, pizza. Amazing. I don't know if my kidney can take that right now, but it's nice to think about. I just want to sit in a hot bath and relax with you guys, and when we're not doing some work, that'd be great. That'd be great. Quietly wondering, I saw one house near Kagoshima changed from 15 million to 20 million with the reopening. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. A little bit of price gouging going on. That's true. There's a rail pass you can get as a tourist, so that's worthwhile if you want to see as much of Japan as you can while you're here. Yes, that's right. For those of you who don't know, there are tourist rail passes with excellent coverage throughout all of Japan that use like a ton of the railway systems, subways, Shinkansen, even buses. So you can utilize those to save some dough. Let's start an Akiya co-op biz. Hey, why not? Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to Z getting here and helping out. That's going to be nice. Yeah, that's right. I haven't even seen Evelyn's house except for a few pictures, and I can guarantee you that it's in much better shape than mine. But yeah, still, there's stuff to do. That's right. Yeah, Yeah, thank you about the Docomo. I was kind of happy to hear that. Docomo told me you put it in the exact perfect spot. It can't get any better than the spot you put it in. But like I told Evelyn, it took me a really long time to find that spot. I moved it in the front of the house, all up and down the front, all up and down the side, all up and down the back, and I just kept looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. I guess it's for my training as a satellite technician. For those of you who don't know, a long time ago, I got certified in satellite installation, so I know how to position satellite dishes to get the optimal signal. So I would just imagine that that part of that played into me getting the best signal here. But that doesn't mean it's a good signal. It just means it's the best signal possible. Sound is okay. Picture's pixelated a bit. Occasional stop in transmission, but nothing is missed. Okay, that's good. Yeah, there will be plenty left to do. Yes, of course. All right. Okay, we got to get that big tub before then. I will do my best to figure out how to do that. 180 days in a year allowed now for tourist visa? What do you mean? Can you stay for that long? No, I'm not aware of any change like that. As far as I know, it's still 90 days. I haven't heard about any change to 180. But American residency is 90 days, and I think a lot of the other visas or residency are 90 days as well. I finally caught up with all of your comments and questions, so I wanted to jump back to the second point. Okay, closing costs. Okay, I'll quickly read over this, and of course, if you have any questions, you can drop them, and then we'll move on to the third one. Okay, I'm just going to read through these right quick. Closing costs. The main cost for an Akiya and its land at closing is both the house and the land, but generally what you're buying most of the time, unless it's a really new property, is you're really buying the land and the house just happens to come with it because it's sitting on the land. Like mine, I got the house as a bonus, but the land itself is what I actually bought. So it's not uncommon to find an Akiya that has like no value or low value according to the government. But the land always holds value. No matter where it is in Japan, every piece of land is going to have some value because they tax it. So depending on the location, the price can be different. So keep that in mind. It means that the initial price will be higher, but also the taxes will be higher, and then the yearly real estate tax will be higher. So the other thing to consider is in Japan they have something very silly, which is called acquiring property fee. All right, this is not your sales tax. That's different. It's not your real estate tax. This is different. When you buy a property, they have a buying a property fee. Okay? And that can vary depending on how much the property is valued at. So don't be surprised when you get a bill a few months after you've bought your property and it says, oh, by the way, you owe us $1,000 for buying a property. That's true. And the same thing is true for buying a car in Japan. You have an acquiring a car fee. So when you buy a car or a motorcycle, you pay a fee. It's like you're being punished. Oh, you want a house, do you? Well, here's a fee. Oh, you want a car too? Here's a fee. It's pretty ridiculous, but something to remember. You might have a second primary payment due at closing. For any current or outstanding property taxes due. So if for some reason the property owner or the previous owner has not paid the taxes up to date, then you are liable for those. If they are not going to pay them, then you might be liable to pay them. The owner who sold this property to me still had one payment left for the year, and she went ahead and paid it. So I didn't have to pay that. I didn't have to start paying property taxes until the next year. But remember, if there are any current or past due property taxes, they have to be paid by the time of the sale and the signing. So this year, current years, they would have to be paid. When I bought my house on Christmas morning, all of the taxes were up to date for the whole year, so I didn't have to pay anything for that year. I had to start paying the next year. Another fee that you'll have to pay, of course, like I mentioned earlier, at time of signing is the scrivener's fee. And we already talked about how much that would cost, but generally around 100,000 yen. If it's much higher than that, I would ask questions. You can't really get around that cost unless you just happen to be really great in Japanese, skilled in Japanese legal documents, and possibly even qualified in Japan to make legal documents. Then maybe you can get around the scrivener's fee, but not likely. So anyway, by the way, the scrivener's fee doesn't change depending on the price of the property. It's generally about the same. So if you buy a really expensive or really cheap Akiya, don't think, oh, the scrivener's fee will be cheaper. No, it's generally about the same. Not long after closing, after you paid for the house and everything, you'll receive a packet in the mail from the scrivener, and it'll have the finalized papers. The agent will want you to contact them to make sure everything is okay, because they literally have to let the scrivener know. And in my case, the scrivener sent them to me directly, and I was supposed to acknowledge that, yes, everything is okay. And then I had to mail them directly back to the scrivener. I didn't even contact my agent for that. But it was all in Japanese. He was kind enough to actually give a translated version explaining what it was in English. So that was really cool. And I double checked it with my sensei. She told me what I needed to do, and I sent it away, and everything was good to go. Okay. Another can't avoid item is the agent fee. Okay, so whatever the sell price is and all of that on your Akiya, the agent is going to get a fee on top of that. But the good news is that in Japan, the government sets a cap on how much that can be. It looks like Z is going back to bed. All right, bro. Yeah, thank you for being here. It was really nice that you were able to make it. And sweet dreams. And I'm sure later on after I wake up, we'll chat then. So see you then. Okay. Now, at the time I wrote this, I believe that the current fee for the agent is around 5%, but it's not possible for them to charge more than that. So if you're curious about how much does the agent get, just tack on 5%, and that will be likely the maximum of the fee, because legally they can't ask for more than that. So if you try to get a house that is 100,000 yen, it's like super cheap, and they ask you for like, 50,000 yen fee, that's impossible because that's illegal. And by the way, the reason if you're wondering why most agents don't deal with Akiya, that's the reason why, because there's a cap. And if the house doesn't have a high value, then they're not going to make much money. So most agents don't bother with Akiya, at least not the older ones anyway. Okay, and we're at the third and final point, but I'm going to take a moment to take a look at your comments and see if there are any questions here. Okay. All right. It's not 180 days in a row. Oh, let me go up here. I think that's not far enough. Oh, you guys are talking about visa and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Well, I see you guys talking about visas and residency, basically residency. But here's the thing. If you're a tourist, you have no residency. It's just a tourist visa. So you can be here 90 days and you have to get out. During that time, you cannot work for anybody here. It's against the law. You cannot do any work or engage in any work for anyone here. Now, of course, if you have a job and you're working, for your home country, a company back in your home state or whatever, and you're doing work online, yeah, that's no problem. You can keep doing that while you're in Japan. You can go sit on the beach with your laptop and do work for your company back in your home country. No problem. But you cannot come here, like, for example, oh, I'm going to come here for a few months and do some part-time English teaching. Well, you could try to do that, but that's against the law. And if you get caught, guess what? You most likely will get kicked out of Japan, and you will not be able to come back to Japan for a very long time, if ever. And I know it sounds harsh, but they're very strict in Japan about stuff like that. So I want you to really, I really want you to think about that. Teaching in Japan or doing other work in Japan for somebody in Japan and then paying you when you don't have your work visa is a very dangerous game to play, because if they catch you, they can kick you out for at least 5 years, maybe longer. And guess what? If you're hoping to get permanent residency at some point in Japan and you have that on your track record, you can't unless you marry a Japanese, and then you can get some residency. But if you're looking to like build your own business here and then sponsor your own visa and get permanent residency with that on your track record, you will never get permanent residency in Japan. Okay? This is a fact. If you don't believe me, you can look it up, and I do recommend that you do. But there are some like some things that they have in their law about permanent residency. If you break one of those rules, then you can never apply for permanent residency. So the only option you would have would be to marry a Japanese national to get around that. Um, that way you could get residency, but you wouldn't be able to get permanent residency if you did something like work and then get kicked out and then came back 5 or 6 years later. You wouldn't be able to get permanent residency, not without getting married. Just so you know, very important. Okay, now, but here's the thing. Yeah, like if you do come here as a tourist, this is the way it works for Americans. You can stay here up to 90 days and go wherever you want and do whatever you want, as far as like tourism and looking around. You can get hotel rooms in any place you want. You can go look at Akiyas. You can have a good time. You just have fun. You're not allowed to work. And before 90 days is up, and don't say 3 months. Some people say, "Yo, you get a 3 month residency." Residency. It's not. It's 90 days. So keep that in mind. 90 days. At the end of that 90 days, you have to be out of Japan. Now, you could, if you weren't finished looking, you could actually fly to Hong Kong or South Korea and then fly right back. Just take a break, spend a couple days somewhere else, fly back to Japan, and keep looking around, to reset your visa. But a couple of things to remember here. Well, yes, like Evelyn just said, that's not residency. That's just tourism, so you can't work. But here's the thing. When you're here for like 90 days looking around for stuff and you exit and then leave and then just come back a couple of days later, that sends up kind of a red flag with immigration. They're wanting to know, they're going to want to know, you were here for 3 months almost, and you left, you came right back a couple of days later. Are you working? That's what they're going to ask you. They're going to suspect that you're working. So just be prepared for that. You might be made of money, and you might have a hotel lined up, or you might be traveling all around Japan looking at all sorts of Akiya and run out of time, so you just exit and then come back. And you might not be breaking any laws, but they're still going to be suspicious. So just remember that. But yeah, there's also extensions. That's right. But regardless, they're still going to be suspicious, and they're going to ask you questions about why. Why are you here on a tourist visa for longer than 90 days? So there you go. You got to pay taxes after 180 days. Well, I see a lot of talk about 180 days, but I don't know anything about that. I've never heard anything about it. Because if you're on a tourist visa, that's not residency. If you have any type of residency, and that includes being a student, if you're here on a student visa and you're going to school, then you are required to pay into the health system. You're required to have their health insurance, at least the national health insurance. And they have a pension system too. If you have residency, you're legally required to be involved in those things. If you have a tourist visa, then no, you will not pay those things. So you're not going to be paying income tax, pension, and health insurance on a tourist visa. Okay. Yeah, Evelyn says it's not 180 in a row. It's a cap to how many times you can use a tourist visa. Well, actually, Americans don't need a visa. We don't get a visa. We just get entry permission for 90 days. So we just show up and they ask us, what are we doing here? And then we can stay for up to 90 days. And there's no limit to how many times we can come back. But, like I said, they will become suspicious about leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back. Um, yeah. Um, Different countries have different rules. So, one yeah, 180 days. There's no if you just show up as a tourist, as an American tourist, then it's just 90 days, no visa. They just you get landing permission and they determine if they want to let you in the country or not, which they pretty much always do. They've never blocked me from coming in the country, but they will wonder about why you keep going in and out. Just remember that. Love that feeling of no debt. Me too. And let's see here. Often the free or very cheap houses have backed up taxes. Um, mm, I don't know if that's true or not because my house, which I got really much lower, was completely paid up. So that wasn't my experience. But the as to what percentage of cheap houses have backed up taxes, I don't know. But a free house is literally paying the taxes. That's what a free house is. But by the way, there's no such thing as a free house. And Evelyn and I talked about this. If someone says I bought a free house in Japan, that's a lie. They're just trying to get clicks on their videos. There's no such thing as a free house in Japan. Because even if you get a house that has zero price, you're still going to have to pay taxes, the owed taxes or the backed taxes, and you're going to have to pay the land fee, buying a house or acquiring a real estate fee, and the scrivener's fee and all of those other things. So you're still going to have things to pay. And yeah, I said earlier, Z's probably already comfy in the bed now. Beware free or cheap homes may also attract a gift tax, not spoken about often. Yeah, I don't know anything about a tax, gift tax, but once again, if you're buying through like a tax office, which is probably where you would be buying a free home, then you will clearly know about those things before you ever sign an agreement to buy. You can ask clearly in advance what other fees are there, and they can tell you that. So you don't have to be surprised. Just make sure you're asking questions. Um, if you're buying through a real estate agent, they have a scrivener that will write you the papers. Well, there has to be a scrivener no matter what. No matter how you buy, there's always a scrivener. There has to be a scrivener. Who provides it and where he comes from, that varies. But there's always a judicial scrivener to write up the papers. That's required, for every house that's bought, whether it's an Akiya or not. Um, let's see here. Thank you for stressing that, B. You're welcome. You can apply for a tourist visa extension. It's 90 days and has a cost. I've never done that before. I've stayed in China before on tourist visas for longer than 90 days, and I just left and went back. Or rather, I'm sorry, the type of visa that I had in China was a 2 year, I think it was a 2 year tourist visa with multiple entries. So, but it was only 90-day stay, so I could exit and go back and exit and go back. And once again, they look at you suspiciously because they think you're working. And but like I said, I don't need a visa to come to Japan. So anybody who doesn't know that or isn't familiar with that, because it's American, so it's different. I don't need a visa to come here. It's a courtesy because of the relationship with Japan and the U.S. I can just come here whenever I want without any visa. I don't have to apply for anything. I can just show up. But I cannot stay here for longer than 90 days. There's no limit on how many times I can come back to Japan, so I can just exit and come back. I've never heard about applying for a 90-day extension. But if it's not guaranteed and it's a hassle, to me, it's just easier to fly to like Korea or Hong Kong and stay there for a couple days and then come back. That's a very short and cheap flight. Probably easier to do that just to reset your visa as an American. Okay. Uh, let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. And as you are considered a resident for tax purposes if you stay for more than 180 days in the standard year. Uh, um, I have to leave. I have to leave on a tourist visa. Well, it's not a tourist visa. It's just the American landing visa. So I've got 90 days that I can stay here, and I exit. When I come back, that resets. So I'm not considered living here at all. I'm always considered a visitor. Mm, yeah, yeah, that's right. I gain visitor status upon arrival. That is, if they grant it to me, which they've never denied me. Yeah, if if I arrived and they said, "Why are you here?" and I said, "I want to work and make money," they'd probably be like, "Yeah, we want you to stand right over there." They'd probably pull me to the side and interview me, and then eventually not let me in. Yeah, that's the thing. It's called a visa because it has to be called something. That's true, but it's funny because residency and visa are different things, and even visitor and concession, and they're different terms that mean different things. But anyway, well, you said a couple days they accept reset. They accept reset the same day. And the reason is because you have a stamp that shows you departed. And then your next stamp is shows arrival. So it doesn't matter if it's the same day or not. It doesn't matter. As long as you exit, you depart Japan, then you can come back and arrive in Japan. It can be same day. And once again, I'm speaking of the uh, American system. Like there are some countries that have a similar agreement to the U.S., but even like countries like Britain and Australia and an agreement than what the U.S. has. There are differences, so it's not the same. America has a different system with Japan, and there are benefits and drawbacks to that. So, Block Tray, wait, do you have to do? Do I do? No, I don't do visa runs because I have residency here. I am an English teacher. Now I'm on medical leave currently, so I'm drawing medical insurance benefits to stay home, but I don't do visa runs. I don't have to. I hadn't right as the pandemic started because when I was working in Beijing, I left Beijing, I moved to Tokyo, and no kidding, I went from Haneda Airport to my hotel room by taxi. I checked in, I went straight to the room with all my stuff, and I just collapsed on the bed and I went to sleep. The very next morning, as soon as I looked at my phone, I had a message from my best friend in China. He said, "Have you heard about this virus thing in Wuhan?" So as soon as that started, everything just went downhill. I mean, I had about $16,000 saved up. I was really anxious and getting ready to go. I had a great business English job lined up with some good money right on the horizon. I'm not used to making little money, at least in the past several years. I became very successful with my teaching career in China, and I was teaching for a famous celebrity there. And when I went to Tokyo, I was really really ready to go, and everything that I was going to do just got completely shut down. And I mean, on one hand, yes, on one hand, I was lucky because I had some money saved and I was able to get out of China at the time that stuff just took off. And the money that I had saved was able to support me and get me through until I was able to find other work. But at the same time, all that money that I saved up, I had to spend on life in Tokyo and living in Tokyo and getting by, and I was still sending my daughter money every month. So I just burned through all that money super fast, and I became super broke super fast. But if I could go back and do it all again at the beginning of the pandemic, what I would have done is found an Akiya super fast and buy it as quickly as possible and just move in and use what money that I had to get it livable. And then I would have been at least set in a position where my expenses would have been down very, very low. And then I would have looked for, continued looking for full time work. And, but hindsight is 2020. So, anyway. Blockstray says Mexico and Ireland have 180 days by default. Okay, I didn't know that. So, gracias. Okay, now that I'm caught up with the comments again, I wonder if I can go back later and mark, and I guess I can mark in the description where I read each part 1, part 2, and part 3. That way people can just kind of scroll through if they don't want to go through the whole video. But this is the third and final point: post-purchase and ongoing expenses that you might have. Now, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just the main ones that I and some of the other people that I know have experienced with buying a house, specifically the older houses, the Akiya, that need work and things like that. Here we go. These are possibly what I consider to be the most immediate and important costs after you buy. You've bought, you've signed the papers, and you've got the keys to your new home, like I got on Christmas Day a year before last. Some of the repairs, of course, you can make later, but depending on how you buy the house and where you get it from, there might be some mandatory repairs that you'll have to make within a certain amount of time. So it's possible, just for example, I think somebody mentioned earlier, if you get a house through the Akiya Bank, you might have like a certain amount of time to make some repairs. So if you don't have the money, that can be a big issue to try to get those done. Just something to think about. Also, if you buy a house through the tax assessor's office, like it's a tax sale, it's possible that one of the requirements or some of the requirements are about repairs that you have to get done to the house, and some of those might even have a time limit. Some of those might even have the requirement of they have to be done before you can live in the house or anyone else can move into the house. It's possible. Okay? If you buy an old house that's located within a crowded city area, there can be more requirements that you have to do for your house that houses in the country might not have. So I moved right into my house, and there's no requirement. I've had the city office out to my house. They've seen it, and they've never told me that there's anything that I'm forced to do. There are no mandatory or compulsory things that I have to do with my house. There are just a few things that I'm not supposed to do. But, I can even burn stuff here. I just have to be careful. That's all. Okay, and like I just said, renovating in the country can be different, very different, because of the safety issues. In the city, the chances that your neighborhood is denser are much higher, and so they have tighter regulations typically. Definitely, you need to familiarize yourself with the immediate compulsory repairs that might be required, because that once you know those, you can figure out how much it might cost you to get those done, and if you have a time frame to get those done, then you can determine if it meets your budget or the money that you're going to have. Something to think about. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again here. Because this is a future expense. You have what's called the real estate acquisition tax, which is what I call getting a house tax or getting a property tax. It's literally just a bill that they send you because you bought a house. Hey, congratulations, you bought a house. Now give us some more money. Japan, in my opinion, one of the things that you don't know if you don't live here, when you come to live here, you'll experience it. It seems like multiple times a year, you'll just randomly get another bill in the mail. You just get a notice. Oh yeah, you owe us $300 for this. Oh yeah, you owe us $1,000 for that. Oh yeah, you owe us for this cleaning. You owe us for that. You broke your lease, before it was 2 years. You have to pay an air conditioner cleaning fee. All sorts of weird stuff. So just remember that Japan is it's a land of elderly people, okay? And they do a lot of stuff to shaft people like elderly people. That's my take on why they have to screw the working class so heavily, because we have a huge amount, a huge percentage of population here that are not contributing anything to society. On the contrary, they are sucking the blood out of the country. And that's the absolute truth. The economy is terrible. Wages are just stuck when it comes to, the since the 1990s until now, they haven't changed wages for a lot of positions. So what you made back in 1995 is what you're making now in the same job. Is ridiculous. But prices continue to go up. Import products are higher and higher because the value of the yen is going down. Lately, it's gone up a little bit, but it's predicted in the next few years to keep going down and eventually just tank. So if you can make money in dollars or from another country that has a stronger currency while you're living in Japan, that can be very good for you. Maybe you should keep that in mind. Figure out how to work online from another country and make USD or, something else that's stronger, and then you can live really well in Japan instead of depending on yen. Anyway, uh, well, it's silly. Many of the money can't pay it. Get a whole lot of advance notice. If you don't have, if you if you buy a property and you're gonna have to pay $1,000 for 30 a month from now, and dollars. Oh, they're so nice. They're so nice, aren't they? To let you pay it out over a few months. Anyway, if you want to figure out what that payment is gonna possibly be, you can ask your agent. Whoever's helping you buy a house, you can say, "Hey, wait a second. This house is costing me $30,000, for example." When they send me the acquiring a real estate acquisition fee, how much do you think it will be? They can help you figure that out. Next, you're still going to have, they reassess single and property tax. That in mind. Let me take a look at my phone Wi-Fi to make sure everything is good. Let's see. Okay. It's all good. I'm using my phone. My phone is my Wi-Fi. So I just wanted to check and make sure the battery and everything is good. It seems to be good. So anyway. Okay. Oh yeah. If your house itself is considered to be worthless, like the government says my house has zero value, it doesn't matter. I still have a property tax, but is based on the actual value of the land. So my land here it has a certain value that's reassessed every year, and then they tell me what taxes I have to pay for that year, what real estate taxes I have to pay that year. I believe that you'll find out typically in April. They send that information out in April every year. But here's the good thing. Let's say I spend just for example, let's say I spend $200,000 to completely renovate this kominka and the kura and the gas kura and the bathhouse and the shed outside, and the whole property looks amazing. And I add a big nice parking lot, and I add a huge hot tub, and the whole place looks like an immaculate mansion. They're still just going to assess the value of the property based on the land. So none of those other improvements are going to increase the value of the land. So, because to them the house is still like a 150 to 300 plus year old house. So, pretty cool, huh? All right. Let's see here. Oh, yes, there's also a resident tax. So if you become a resident anywhere in Japan, it doesn't matter where, there's always a resident tax, a local resident tax. So a place like Osaka is going to be expensive, around $2,000 a month. I mean, $2,000 a year or something like that. And you can pay that out over a period of several months. It's still a stupid tax. You're just literally paying a tax for living in a particular place. But because I live in Toyosaka, mine is going to be much, much lower. It was around $800 where I lived in Hiroshima City, but now my residency is here in Toyosaka. So I expect that it's going to be much, much lower than that. So yay. I still think it's stupid that I have to pay that. Anybody has to pay it. And I was told some Japanese avoid that. I don't know how, but I was told you should pay. Yeah, you're right. Inaka cheap. And yeah, Naka is like the countryside, much cheaper. Still stupid, but much cheaper. Um, it's just a fee for living somewhere, and once again, typical Japan, make you pay for something just because. So I asked a colleague one day, "Is there a happiness or a smiling tax in Japan?" Oh, you want to smile? Smiling fee, smiling tax. You want to be happy? Happy tax. Breathing tax? Yeah, everything. One day, Japan will have a tax for everything in order to try to save the country from paying for all of the elderly living in the old folk homes. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, some of this information we've already gone over. Residence taxes, we've already been over. I put a lot of those. Okay. Other things that you might have for long-term payments or future expenses with an Akiya will be like cleaning. Cleaning the place. If you pay someone to come in and clean, you'll have to pay for that. Throwing away garbage, you might have to pay some people to come do that for you. And not just cleaning it up and hauling it away, but if you live in the country like I do and there's no local pickup, then you actually have to take it to the garbage center and dump it. And when you do that, they will weigh it and charge you on the weight. And everything is a little different. You have plastics, glass, old items like old plastic items like plastic lamps and appliances, little appliances and things like that. Um, Aluminum cans. Everything has to be divided up separately, and they're figured and weighed separately, and you have to pay to throw those away. So it's another expense. And of course, any materials that are needed to fix your house, and if you want to buy tools for yourself, if you're going to do some DIY, but if not, you have to pay for labor and contractors, and the contractors can be very expensive. The contractor that I hired to do the electric work, all he did was come in, put in a new breaker box, which I could have done myself, but I'm not supposed to do that in Japan. You're supposed to get the electrician to do that. By law, you're supposed to get the electrician to do that. All he did was put in a breaker box that cost like $60, and he took out the old one, put the new one in, and installed one outlet with 6 plugs right close to the breaker box. That cost $800. So 100,000 yen just for that. And he was there here and out in less than 2 hours. That was like $720, $730 of labor for less than 2 hours because Japan says I have to pay a contractor for that. So keep in mind these ridiculous expenses. Yeah, plastics, metals, glass, batteries, chemicals, burnable trash, these all have different protocols and procedures for throwing away. Luckily, where I live, I can burn a variety of things, so some of those can go out, but definitely chemicals, batteries, glass, metals, and plastics. Some plastics, they have to be taken away, they have to be hauled away. And here in Higashi Hiroshima, they have specific bags for different things. So, and you have to typically haul them away yourself or pay someone to do it. So just keep that in mind. All right. Okay, and by the way, The last thing I'll say here on that particular point is that just because you're in the country doesn't mean you can just burn stuff. You need to check, always check. And so I actually had the city council come out, and they assessed my property because they wanted to give me a quote on how much it would cost to do the cleaning and hauling everything away. But while they were here, I talked to them about burning to get the detailed information. So don't just say, oh, there's no one around me, I'm in the country, I can burn. Well, it might not be that simple. Always check with the city office so that you don't start burning and then get in trouble. Somebody could show up. Okay, that's everything about the costs. And I'll check the chat now to see about your questions that you have. But remember, part one, the reasons why and the things that you should consider before you ever go looking to buy an Akiya. Part two, how to find one. Lots of links on resources that you could use to try to find your own place in Japan. And then this part was going over costs involved before, during, and after your signing. Okay, and let me look back and see if you've got some questions here for me. But anyway, I wish I had a Mexican passport. Really? I didn't know that the Mexican passport was so strong. Mine is pretty strong. American passport is still pretty good, so I don't have any complaints. It's difficult in places like China. They're very strict against Americans, and they've gotten stricter in recent years. What problems would there be? Quietly wondering, what problems would there be paying for regular ongoing costs as a non-resident? No bank account, receiving the bills in the first place. That's a good question. As a non-resident, you're not restricted in buying a place in Japan, right? You probably already know that. But as far as ongoing costs, such as being a non-resident, I don't believe that you have to worry about paying residence fees, like yearly residence fees, because you're not registered there as a resident. Okay, that's different. My residence card has me on registered at the government, local city government office as a resident of that place. Just because you own a house there doesn't make you a resident. For example, what if you buy a house in Tokyo and one in Hiroshima? Are you a resident in one of those places? Well, I'm a resident here in Hiroshima, but I can buy a house in Tokyo. I'm not going to pay residence fees in both places, right? So as a foreigner, you won't pay residence fees. However, you will still have yearly property taxes. You'll have to pay the real estate tax every single year. And more than likely, they're just going to send that to the address on file. So that will arrive at your home, hey, sometime around April, somewhere around then. It'll say, hey, you owe these. These are your figured and adjusted property taxes for this year. And you have to pay that. How you get them is your business. You're going to have somebody go by there and collect them for you. Or you can have them, maybe you can have them mailed to a different address where that person can collect them for you and then let you know. They can show them to you. They can take a picture or scan them so you can see. And then you can see about wiring them the money so that they can pay. You can't open a bank account here unless you have residency. You have to. As a tourist, you cannot open a bank account. You absolutely cannot. The banks and the government work very, very closely, even more so than China, okay? I know this for a fact. My personal experience, and if you look at other people in Japan, when their visa is coming up on renewal, you start getting notified from the bank about updating your information. They want your new visa information as soon as possible, your new residency information as soon as possible, to make sure that you're not here working illegally. Now, you could have your new residency and you're still working legally, but you forget to go to the bank, like what happened to me. I tried for a long time to do my information online, to update my residency card online. It never really worked, and they froze my bank account. So I could not even withdraw money. I couldn't even see my balance. So when I tried to use an ATM, it would just give me an error message. So I had to take a half day off of work at the school. I had to lose money just to go down to the bank and show them my ID card and update my information that I still had a residency, proper residency, and legal work. And then they unfroze my account. It's very stupid. They're very, very strict about it. So keep that in mind. If you don't have a Japanese bank account and you don't have residency, then you're not going to be able to get the Japanese bank account and you won't be able to use that to do anything here. You're just going to have to find a different way to pay. I can't tell you how to do that. You would just need to have someone here do that for you. They would have to be able to receive or get that mail for you when it comes and let you know what it is and then be able to pay it for you. So you could wire them the money and they could go pay it for you. But how you do that is up to you. Let's see, the foundation for the Akiya I'm interested in is really horrible. There are houses below it, and I'm just imagining it sliding down onto the neighbors. Well, Blocks Ray, I'm interested. Oh, okay, you said that. I was about to say, why are you interested in it? But you said the location is insanely good, right next to the station and ferry to Busan. Yeah, something like that I'd be worried about. I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night knowing that the house was in that kind of condition. The foundation is bad, and there are houses right below. I'm not going to make any advice, or I'm not going to give any advice on that situation. I'm just going to say I'm not sure I'd be able to do that. Okay. Evelyn's having some loading issues. Your stream is lagging out. I hope it's better now. I haven't changed anything, but I hope it's better now. I set it near the window or up high. Well, it doesn't go near the window because I have a repeater. I have an antenna outside, and that goes into a repeater. The repeater sends the signal inside here. So putting my phone near the window won't help. The signal's coming from in here. Akiya literally just means an empty house or unoccupied house. That's all it means. It doesn't have any other connotation other than a house that nobody is living in. That's all it means. And you can watch my video. If my upload works, you can watch that video in about 8 or 9 hours from now because I made a video just about that. I know it sounds silly to make a 10-minute video about what is an Akiya, but I'm sorry. That one is not what is an Akiya. It is what is an abandoned house. Okay, that's the first one that I started off with. The one I'm uploading tonight is what is an abandoned house. You can check that out later, but I'll answer the other one also. But it's very simple. It's just an empty house. That's all it means. Unoccupied, nobody living there. Doesn't mean abandoned. It just means nobody living there. Okay. Let's see here. Yep, that's right. Psycho ne. Yes. Hi, psycho desu. Yeah, the happiness tax in Bhutan. Maybe so. Maybe so. Are you lived there alone? Don, if you're talking to me, then yes, I live here alone. As you can see, there's no one else here. I know it's a big house with a lot of rooms and you can't see none of the rooms, but trust me, there's nobody else here right now. If there is, I'm not aware of it. Okay. I was told I need to talk to the tax office to get it waived. Okay. Okay. Well, I see you guys talking about something else on the side. That's fine. Okay. Cool. There's nothing on my channel, but you can follow so that I can communicate later. Oh, okay. Is there a tax send-in deadline? Yes. When you get the bill for your yearly real estate taxes or property taxes, they generally give you about a month to a month and a half to make your first payment. You don't have to pay it all at once, but you're generally only going to have about a month before you have to make at least the first payment. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you owe a lot, they'll probably break it up into every 2 months or smaller amounts in every month if you don't want to pay it all at once. It depends on how much you have to pay. Let's see here. Also, electricity and gas bills, if applicable, can be a real concern to keep the bills paid. Relying on others for collection or payments just complicates the process. I understand that, but here's the thing: electricity and gas bills. If you don't, if no one is living in your house and you're in another country, I can't imagine why your gas and electricity would be on. That sounds highly unsafe. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend you get those shut off. And when they're off, you don't pay anything. The gas company comes out and they check your meter, and if you haven't used any gas and you've basically got your gas turned off, the bill should be zero. And it's easy enough to have the electricity turned off, like by the electric company, so that you don't pay anything. So I'm not sure why you would be paying for electricity and gas if you're in another country and nobody's living there. I don't like the idea of leaving my electricity and gas on and going to another country. I definitely would not do that. Um, let's see here. Cash App and use own bank. Well, that's another thing. If any of you are interested in using some apps like Cash Apps that they use here in Japan, any of the Japanese popular apps, like for example PayPay or something like that, you're not going to be able to use those things with your home bank. You're not going to be able to use those here. You're going to have to use the Japanese bank to set those things up. And some things you can't even buy, like Mercari, for example, Mercari shopping online. You can't even buy if with a foreign credit card. You can't even though they accept Visa or Mastercard, you can't buy with a foreign Visa or Mastercard. Okay. I remembered you can't open bank account as a non-resident. Yeah, that's right. You have to have some type of residency, whether it's temporary or permanent. You have to have some type of residency to open a bank account. If you're a student, you can, but it's also kind of there's some limits on some things you can do, like how much you can work, for example. Quietly Wandering says, so there's no supply costs. Oz has a daily supply charge even when no electricity is used. Well, here's the thing. I, like I said before, first of all, before I answer that, I can't imagine why you would leave the electricity on, even if you're like, well, I'm going to turn it off the breaker box and just leave it on while I'm gone. Even if they didn't charge you a supply charge fee, why would you do that? I'm not sure why you would want to do that. It's not that difficult to just let them know I'm going to be out of the country for a while, so I need to shut off my service, and then you can just turn it on at a later time. I wouldn't recommend leaving it on. But is there a charge fee just for having it available? I don't know. I don't know. I've never done that, so I can't say. But I wouldn't do that. I personally would just completely have it shut off. Unless I was just going to be gone for, like a week or two. If I was going to go to the US and visit my daughter, I would probably just turn it off at the breaker box. No big deal. Come back in a week or two. But if you're going to be gone for several months at a time or a year and a half, why would you leave that on? It seems dangerous to me. Got to get cash yen. Yeah, hookup fee before and after off, I think, but that's it. Um, I'm not aware of any significant fees. Just for example, you guys know, or if you should know, just if you've seen several of my videos, but I had an apartment in Hiroshima City close to the school where I was teaching. And when I bought this house, I wanted to get electricity, but I needed to replace the breaker box. So I was able to pay the electrician to come out and replace that. And then the electricians came out. They saw that the breaker box was hooked up, and they turned the electricity on. There was no fee for that. I paid no hookup fee for that. They came out and, you know, opened the box. They unlocked the box. They connected it, put in the meter or whatever, and they were done. They were here for a few minutes and done and gone. And my first bill for the whole house for the next month was like 250 yen. And the reason was because I used almost no electricity. I was only here for 1 day a week after that. And when they billed me, I got no bill for hookup. I got no bill for that. I just got the bill for the electricity that I used, which was less than half the price of a really cheap bowl of ramen. So I'm not aware of any hookup or disconnect fees. I've never seen those ever. And I've lived in a few different places, Tokyo, Saijo, Hiroshima, and now, or Hiroshima City, and now Toyosaka. So personally, in my name, I've had electricity turned on and shut off in 4 places, and I've never seen these fees. So I wouldn't worry about getting things, having to pay for getting things turned off and turned on. It's I don't know where you're at, if you're used to paying like $25 or $50 or $75 for getting things turned on and turned off. I mean, that's a scam in my opinion, but thankfully it's one of the fees I've never seen in Japan. I will tell you this. Um, if there's a way to turn off the gas at the tanks, because now here's the thing, there's city gas and there's like propane gas. My house is propane gas. Right now, I don't have the tanks. And just as an update, they are coming. I was told today that they're coming to my house on Monday, which is a day and a half from now. They will come out here on Monday to make sure that my plumbing and everything is correct. And if it is, then they'll come back on Tuesday and hook up my gas tanks and connect my hot water heater, and I'll have hot water. So, yay. But there are a couple of things to know about gas if you're using propane gas like I have to, because there's no city gas here. So first, let me speak about the city gas right quick. They're going to bring me 2 gas tanks and connect those to my house for my stove, which I think I'll be able to hook to the one that Till gave me. If Till watches all of this, I can't imagine why he'd be so bored, but if he watches this, he said he just left his gas stove here. So I could hook up that gas stove to this gas connection. Plus, I can hook up my gas water heater to that connection. But if I'm going to go away from my house for a while, feasibly, I could turn the gas off at the tanks. Okay? The reason I would want to do this is because it number one, it blocks the meter from running. There's a gas meter. The company comes out and they check the gas meter to see how much gas I've used, and that's how they charge me every month. Okay? But if it's off at the tank, the meter is not going to move at all. The other thing is it eliminates any possible danger between the pipes that go from the tanks to inside the house, right? So if I'm gone, I don't have to worry about any dangerous situations there because the tanks are turned off. And even though I still technically have a contract with the gas company, when they come out and check the meters, I'm not going to owe anything because I'm not using anything. However, if I decide to cancel the contract with that gas company within like a year or a year and a half, well, then I do have to pay like a fine or a fee for breaking my contract with them. I think you have to have it for 3 years. I think that's what I was told with this particular company. As odd as it seems, there are other companies available in this area, and I could get them to come out and hook up my gas. But if I decide I don't like this company, and I tell them, come get your stuff, get out of here, and I get another company to bring their gas tanks out, then I have to pay a fee for breaking lease with that company. It's almost like apartment rental. So that would be a fee. But turning the gas off, like turning the valves off, would save me money if I'm not going to be here. In that case, I wouldn't tell the company to come out and get their stuff because that would cost me money. However, if you're on city gas, I can't do more than speculate about that because it's not something that I know about. I've never used gas in a house I've always had electricity for the the stove in the kitchen, so I can't speak to that. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, on and off fees are minimal or nil, pretty much. But if you break some kind of agreement, like a 3-year lease agreement, then there's some kind of fee. But you can avoid that just by turning the gas off. No such thing with electricity. And here I have my own water, so I don't have to worry about that. Security systems and having your house heated. My house in Sweden is fully on because if a house gets cold, pipes burst. Yeah, it's possible, but once again, I think it's about. I'm not really worried too much about security systems for multiple reasons. Because of look, one I know it's stereotypical, but it's true. It's Japan, and it's not as big a deal here. But also location. You know, if I lock up this place, it's way out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, somebody could come out here and try to break in or something, but it's highly unlikely. However, for me, it would depend on how long I'm going to be gone, how long I'm going to not be here, you know, and then I would make that decision. But it is possible. As far as uh, leaving the house heated, well, I wouldn't do that unless I was only going to be. But even then, if you really think about it, I don't know why. Why would I still want to have the house heated? Why would you want to do that if you're not going to be here for a really long time, for many months? Which I get the impression that that's what we were talking about. Not being in this house for a really long time, because if you get like fees or not the residency fees, the property taxes, and you're not here to pay those, why would you have the house heated for such a long time? What a big waste of money that would be, and useless to heat the house. As far as like the pipes bursting, that's a matter of insulation, not heating the house. You just need to make sure that the pipes are properly wrapped and nice and comfy. And unless you're in Hokkaido, there aren't many places here that get that cold. The coldest it's gotten here so far is like -11. And I do realize that pipes can burst at that temperature, but if they're properly buried and or insulated, then yeah. But I've never heard of anybody heating pipes in Japan. Not in this area. Not in most of Japan. Um, if you visit for a week a year, you got to have it on all year. Um, if it's in use, I'm not sure what that means. If you have the power on, if you have to have the power on, you have to have the power on if it's in use at all. As in, if you just visit for a week a year, you got to have it on all year. So I don't understand really what that means. Does that mean that if you turn the power on, if you have the electricity turned on in your house, and like, let's say you buy a new house and you have electricity turned on, in Sweden, yeah, I know in Sweden, but let's say you buy the house and then you'd have the electricity turned on and you have a lot of work done and everything, but then you're going to leave Sweden and go back to your home country for like a year and a half. Are you telling me that you have to leave the electricity on for at least a year and pay for that? I don't understand why that would happen. It doesn't make any sense. If that were the case, then it would be a deterrent for me buying a house in Sweden to have to be forced to pay for keeping the electricity on for an entire year. Um, the house can break if you don't have it heated. Um, I'm not really sure exactly what that means. I mean, um, you can't have like the electricity turned off, yeah, at the by the electric company, but you can turn off the breaker box. Yeah, I understand that, but um, if if you turn it off at the breaker box and there's no charge for the electric company, I can see that you could do that. That's no problem. But I think that if somebody isn't going to be at their house for like a year and a half or 2 years, it makes no sense to keep the power on, you know. But Oh, well, if some houses are constructed so that they can break, then they're constructed incorrectly. They should be constructed a different way. That's what it sounds like to me because um, I'm very familiar with, like for example, you know the other YouTube channel, Runahara, right? He has the cafe, and they had some pipes break recently because of the cold. And the reason that happens is because they got too cold. The expansion in the pipes, there's water inside the pipes, and when that gets frozen, it expands, and that's what causes the pipe to break. It's very simple. So the solution is to properly insulate the pipes as best you can, and if you can, control the environment around the pipes so that it has further insulation. And that could include having the pipes buried in the ground or inside a part of the house where there's a temperature difference between the outside freezing air and the temperature in there. If there's not, then it can lead to pipes bursting. Right now, I have some PVC pipe that's just laid out on the ground. There are some insulated pieces on it right now, but I didn't start using the water until tonight to wash some clothes, and so there was no water in the pipe. So I wasn't concerned about the pipes breaking because there's nothing in there to expand. But the temperatures nowadays are not going to get down much lower than about I think -2 or so, and that's not a big deal. So with the insulation I have on it, even though it's exposed and laying on the ground, it's not gonna burst. I'm not worried about it. But before next winter, I'll have all of my pipes dug down into the ground, so and insulated, so I don't have to worry about them bursting even if they're full of water. Uh, yeah, even if it gets down to like -15, it won't matter. Disconnecting is free, but reconnecting costs 3,500 USD. Well, you got to pay for those healthcare systems somehow, I guess. Yeah, this is one of those things that when I hear stuff like that, I think, yeah, I will never pay such things. I would never submit to that. That's too crazy for me. But anyway, um, let's see here. The water pipes can bust, but if the breaker is off, you don't pay electric. Hmm. Well, that's just the thing. If I turn off my breaker here and my meter is not turning, I don't know if I still have some type of monthly fee, but I can tell you this. I've had two electric bills for about 13 months. No, 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 not 13 months, 12 months, about 1 year. Because I was living in Kaita and I was paying my electric bill there. And I had this house here. So I literally had two bills. And they were sending both of them to Kaita. They said they could do that. So I was getting my Kominka electric bill and my apartment electric bill both sent to my apartment in Hiroshima City. And my bill for the Kominka would vary between less than 100 yen per month and about 350 yen per month, depending. If I came here a lot throughout the month, which was basically 4 times in a month, then it would be close to 100 yen per day that I was here. Okay, but when I was not coming here as much, it would sometimes be like 75 yen, less than $1. So if I just turn it off, I don't think that I'm going to have to pay anything. I don't think I'm going to have to pay like a "you are connected and services available" fee. Because what would it be if I leave it on and I'm not here? It's going to be like nothing, right? So I'm pretty sure that there's no such fee in Japan. If I just turn it off at the breaker and leave, I'm just going to be billed zero because they're going to look at the meter and see that I haven't used any electricity. So I don't think that it's a big deal here. But like I said, if I were going to be gone for a really long time, if I had to go to America and be there for like a year, year and a half or something like that, I would definitely turn the electricity off with the electric company. I would not be I would not feel safe about leaving a live connection on my house with me not here. So um, well, the pipes burst inside the house if you don't keep the house heated. For that, you only need above freezing, but the house can mold if you don't heat it above 10 to 15 degrees because of how we build. Yeah, I know it's different. It's different in Sweden. The type of house that I have, if if everything outside is set up properly, like all of the soil and all of the grass and everything is back properly, and the skirt around the house is repaired properly, and everything in this kominka is set up the way it's supposed to be set up, then those things don't apply. And here's why: because the temperature in the house, even if it gets down to -10, doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because if the pipes, the cold water pipes and the hot water pipes, are properly insulated, then they will also be protected when the indoor temperature of the house gets down really low. So if all of the pipes are insulated properly, then none of that's an issue. So the house itself could be like zero insulation and the pipes would still be fine because they're properly insulated. That's why I said earlier, just make sure your pipes are insulated. But as far as mildew and stuff like that, this house doesn't have to worry about that as long as all of the other things are repaired. Right now, it is a problem. And the reason is because of all of the crap that's gotten out of hand because it was abandoned for so long. So once that's taken care of, yeah, and yeah, Japanese houses, especially the older ones, they're made to air out. So when they are in proper condition, yes, they don't mold. But this one can and does mold. However, it can be repaired by fixing those issues, which I plan to do a little bit at a time. But anyway, um, anything I'm missing here? Okay, yeah. Anyone who might have joined, welcome. I hope you had a chance to, or you have a chance to go back and skim over and find everything you're looking for. If you have any further questions about this topic or anything we discussed, feel free to drop it in the comment section. But I'm really happy I was able to do this. I know that the connection wasn't perfect, but it was, hopefully it was good enough. And I'm very happy that we got more than 10 viewers at one point. That was very cool, cool experience. So I'm very, very thankful to all of you for joining. And once again, a special thank you to Evelyn for coming out and spending some time here and helping with some of the cleaning. Um, and yeah, yeah, thanks, Quietly Wandering. Definitely looking forward to that. Anybody who's in the area or would like to, meet up sometime in the future or just stop by and say hi, please reach out to me. If you don't already know, my email address is in my About section, but you can always leave a comment because I read all the comments. Sometimes, if you reply to a comment, sometimes I don't see them because YouTube doesn't always let me know. But if you post a fresh comment on a video, then I always get that notification and I always go back and I look at those. So I hope this video has been useful. It turned into a much bigger video than I thought, but that's a good thing because there was a lot of conversation. And I'm very thankful that you are all here. And until next time, I wish you all the best. Mwah. Much love from me and English Vera. And yeah, thank you. Yes, it did. It did help hold up. Okay, well, at least it seems for me, everything here seems all right. But anyway, look for my next video. I'm gonna upload it once again. It's the what is an abandoned house, and I'll upload some other terms later. But for now, that's it. It's after midnight. It's time for me to start bedding down and getting some rest. And I feel very good. Part of that's because of you guys, you subscribers. You make me very, very happy. And I hope this has been useful. Mwah. Love you guys. And じゃあね. Bye bye.